First, it was a dream, the dream of practical visionaries. The practical dream became a plan, the plan a legal mandate. In 1962, the voters told the Bay Area Rapid Transit District to build the dream, one of the most costly and economical dreams ever to be realized. The district began to build with a bang. June 19, 1964 was a festive day in Concord. The dream of years came to vigorous life, and the people were there to smile and cheer and applaud. The President of the United States arrived on schedule, and the ceremonies were observed on schedule, unusual for festive occasions. But perhaps a happy omen of fast, comfortable trains, always on schedule.
Governor Brown, Mr. Falk, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, those who believe that the frontiers of America are closed should be out here today. The dreams and the deeds represented by this ceremony prove that the era of the pioneers is not over. Only the area of pioneering has changed. Yesterday's frontiers were vast empty lands, waiting to be claimed and cultivated by settlers who crossed the continent to start a new life. Today's frontiers are teeming cities, where too many people already lead a neglected life. Yesterday's frontiers were crisscrossed by wagon trains. Today's frontiers are clogged by automobiles. You here in California are doing something about that crisis. This mass transit system is a victory for vision of men who started 12 long years ago to make it a reality.
30,000 people listened and then watched the president set off the charge that signaled the opening of construction. The public festivities last only a few hours. The captains and the kings departs. The work goes on. The work that had begun at conference tables, when the victory of vision seemed very far off indeed. But the vision itself was firm and clear. This vision, 75 miles of fast trains serving 37 stations in Alameda, Contra Costa, and San Francisco counties, including 16 miles of subways and tunnels, 31 miles of aerial lines supported by graceful structures, 24 miles of surface lines carrying especially designed cars, and a 4-mile tube, longest in the world, under the bay. Why all these plans and miles and money? The answer was clear and loud to voters in the 3 counties who said a resounding yes to a $792 million price tag, the largest single public works bond issue ever passed by a local district. Yes to relieve congestion and parking problems. Yes to the concept of balanced transportation, trains, automobiles, buses, not just automobiles. And yes, now, before it's too late, to restoring and preserving the vital metropolitan cores of the entire Bay Area. Visions rarely proceed to reality in an orderly fashion, but BART's, guided by a representative 11-man board, did just that. First, criteria had to be established. A set of high standards, but capable of achievement. It's been almost 50 years since engineers have had an opportunity to design a rapid transit system from the ground up. With no incentive to develop new concepts and no opportunity to test, technology has not advanced rapidly in this field. Every resource that modern technology has to offer is now being explored by the hundreds of top-flight district engineers. Kinds of cars, seats, rails, power propulsion, automation, safeguards, durability, and aesthetic considerations. If adequate technical means do not now exist, they are being invented and developed by the experts to ensure the bold dream. A transit system that will be safe, comfortable, reliable, attractive, and economical. There is no straight line of development in building a transit system. Almost everything goes on simultaneously. But there is an added factor in the building of this system. Because, as the President said, such building today is proof that the era of pioneers is not over. Today, hundreds of expert pioneers plan the systematic phases of construction, from the smallest detail to the most complex set of specifications. A painstaking, orderly process of building for the future. The modern pioneer starts with surveying. Survey parties worked for months to establish 3,000 horizontal and vertical control points required for mapping the transit lines and station sites. At the same time, in another part of the district, piles are driven, so that while concepts are being developed and tested, actual construction goes forward. Some 300 new pioneers work full-time in the joint venture, a combination of 3 of the world's leading engineering companies, Parsons, Brinkerhoff, Tudor, and Bechtel, full-time on concepts, design, and construction. The work goes forward in a delicate balance of haste in order to complete the project on schedule, and of measured deliberation to assure successful operation. Manpower and heavy machine power work together in the tremendous undertaking. The 4.5-mile test track between Concord and Walnut Creek, a section which will become part of the operating line, epitomizes the pattern of completing basic conceptual developments before design of components can be carried out. And because rapid transit, as the President said, is not merely a local concern, but a severe national problem, the federal government is largely supporting the vital research on the test track. Prefab concrete, reinforced with steel, will play a large part in the new system. Sections such as these, quickly lifted into place at the test track, will later become part of an overpass. The rails are a good example of modern technology contributing to comfort, speed, and safety. First, sections of rail are welded into quarter-mile lengths by a low-voltage, high-amperage technique which creates such intense heat that the molecules are intermingled and the rails actually fuse together into a solid piece. 34 flat cars then haul the 1,000-ton load of flexible ribbon rails to the Diablo Test Track. After tractors and cranes had dragged the new rails into place, the first bolting down ceremony was held, with BART officers and directors participating. Later, the 1,440-foot lengths of steel rail will be welded together to eliminate entirely any familiar old clickety-clack. At the same time, the drafting board is in constant use, and architects' models of functional and pleasing stations are discussed. These too are models, but life-size, and they're deliberately not pleasing to the eye. The engineers have mocked up box-like laboratory cars which will never carry transit passengers, only answer technical questions in the field about sound and vibration, speed, propulsion, different kinds of electric current, automatic train controls. Following tests in the shop, the 3 laboratory cars were loaded onto flat cars for the journey to the Diablo site. Then heavy equipment unloaded the oblong crate-like cars and set them on the test track to answer more questions under actual running conditions. Other kinds of questions are being answered in this operation, taking soil samples from the bottom of the bay to determine the soil's profile, information vital to the design of the underwater trans-bay tube. A cylinder has been brought up full of bay soil, the sample tube capped, sealed, and sent to the laboratory. And here, your questions are answered. Questions that arise in every local community about just where and how and why your part of the dream will be built. District community relations men and engineers answer questions and display maps at these 4-hour meetings. Because of good advance coverage by local press, the meetings are well attended. Attendance was overwhelming at the April 12th ceremony marking the completion of the Diablo Test Track. Dr. Robert Weaver, administrator of the United States Housing and Home Finance Agency, told the audience, "We are ready to take off on an exciting venture, the beginnings of a truly modern transit system." He also praised the initiative, enthusiasm, and material support of the residents and the local governments in the Bay Area. And finally, he remarked on the immense value of the testing to other metropolitan areas which are considering adoption or extension of rapid transit systems. Yours, concluded Dr. Weaver, is the pioneering project, the beginning of a new age of modern urban transportation. But as scattered in time and place as is all the pioneer planning, testing, building, one picture stays firmly in the hundreds of minds at work. This picture, 75 miles of safe, comfortable, fast transportation linking San Francisco, Alameda, and Contra Costa counties, carrying 30,000 seated passengers per hour per track. You will be one of them. When? Where? By 1968, the Richmond-Hayward line will begin operation, with stops in El Cerrito, Berkeley, Oakland, and San Leandro. A year later, you will step aboard a quiet new train in Oakland, travel under the bay, and alight at any one of the stations in the initial San Francisco line. And the same year, ride the wide-gauge cars between Concord and Oakland, stopping in Orinda, Lafayette, Walnut Creek, and Pleasant Hill. By 1970, the final link of the southern Alameda County line will be ready to take you from Hayward to Fremont. And the last link, from Market Street in San Francisco through Twin Peaks to West Portal, will be forged in 1971, completing 2 decades of dreams, visions, and solid work, and completing the first stage of what has come to be known as BART. The system being watched by every urban area in the United States and throughout the world. The costly dream that will become the most economical transportation system yet devised by practical visionaries.